Scott Boras, baseball's super agent. Kind of one of the most consequential people in the sport, somebody that not a lot of mainstream folks are as familiar with, but has had one of the bigger impacts of this generation of anybody.
If you don't know his name, you certainly know the players that he represents. Everybody from Bryce Harper, Barry Bonds, Garrett Cole, Juan Soto, Alex Rodriguez. Like, it's a long list of very, very, very notable names.
Has changed the economics of the sport in a way that much more favors the players than when Boras first came into the league around the time where players getting drafted were making less in some cases than players a decade or two earlier. So if there's ever going to be an agent inducted into the Hall of Fame, it will likely be him. Carlos also had the dubious honor of being fill-in DP on
Yeah, it's thrilling.
shoot. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a lot of stuff that you have to, like, pay attention to. I mean, like, when it comes to, like, setting up the cameras, lighting, and also coordinating with the guests, too, to make sure the shot looks good. So,
Were you stressed?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I'm always stressed.
Well, one thing that was challenging with the office where we did the sit down was trying to find the right spot, because
Oh, yeah, that was the thing.
the objectively best look would have been in front of this baseball wall
Yeah.
that he has in the lobby, which is signed by all the players that he's represented, but it's also right in the lobby. It's like literally 5 steps away from the front door.
And the interview starting at the start of the day when everybody would be going
Well,
through.
everybody would have been there, but it's
right.
also an open floor plan,
yeah.
and so people would be listening and hearing. Now, Scott has a lot of interesting baseball artifacts in his office, but it's a bit more cramped, and the angles.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
that's
what we
one.
talked about, the angles.
Right. I mean, it would have been nice to have. It's always better to have more space rather than a cramped little office like that. But yeah, it probably would have looked really cool out and like outside his office like that, with the background of all the Hall of Famer, the baseball players, and having that depth.
Although I do think if we had to do it over again, I'd still pick the same place.
Really?
Because we were away from the noise. We didn't have to be interrupted, which would have likely happened at least a few times.
Yeah, I guess.
And I also think less likely he would have been as comfortable getting into sensitive topics out in the open. At least my opinion. I think there's some value in intimate settings.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. It makes sense.
We tried we thought a way to improve the look of the office would be to raise the 2 levels of shades or blinds that he had on his windows. We figured out how to raise one of them, and nobody in the office could figure out how to raise the other one.
Not even Boras?
They didn't ask. I don't think they ever asked Scott.
Okay. And by the time he came in,
we were set. We needed to be set. So, because he got there late a little bit, so we wanted to make sure we were ready to go. I think 3 different people from the office were there trying to figure out how to open the shades, and we've never seen these open, so I'm not sure how to do it.
So the interview ran long,
A little bit.
and stood to disrupt what was planned for the rest of the day. Little did I know, and I don't know if you knew this, but we were going with him to this charity baseball tournament that he puts on with his brother at the local high school. They had assembled media waiting there for Scott to do interviews that he ended up missing entirely because our interview ran so long, which I felt quite bad about. Admittedly, though, I had no idea there was press there waiting to interview him.
I think the Boras interview might have set an in-depth record.
No.
For longest interview?
Not even close.
Well, anyway, it's up there, top 5 for Boras. He has a lot of knowledge in his brain, and that showed because he just pour. Anytime you asked a question, he would go on and on and on about these players.
And interestingly, I found less interesting his knowledge of the players and just more interesting, peeling back a layer in terms of who he is and how he got to where he is. And, it is, while he's a sports executive, is different than a movie director or an actor or a comedian or, any of these other folks that we'll also profile. There's, I think, a through line with all of these folks, which is to be the elite at what you are. There's just a constant work ethic, and you are on all the time. I mean, he's on the same way Barry Sternlicht's on, the same way that, Jesse Cole's on, the same way that, it's like all of these folks, it's the same.
When he talked about the sacrifices, too, that he's made to make that happen, to be the best, to always be the best, to always have it on. It's a life that I semi-relate to, but, I can't imagine being always on in the way that those guys do that. It's crazy.
Because even if you love your family and you're a great father or partner, there is obvious sacrifice from a time investment perspective that happens when you're at that level professionally, regardless who it is that we're talking to. So right. The interview went long. One of the things we were obviously looking forward to was touring this really cool office of his and all that's there. I would imagine the stress increased even more for you because all of a sudden this extensive time we thought we were going to have for this tour got compressed and compressed and compressed.
Like for a split second, I was like, oh, it might not happen. Because I remember you guys were talking about Scott has to go to his foundation because he's going to miss something. And then you guys were talking to each other and how much time we would squeeze to do this. So yeah, I mean, that was another thing too. I mean, we were trying to do this really quick and wrap up and head out to the foundation, which added more
just
stress.
Enough. Yeah, you're just trying to get just enough for the tour
to make it a clip,
to make it something, and then move on. Which we did.
Yeah.
He still generously helped in getting us Juan Soto to talk to as part of this profile.
Yeah, that was really cool. We shot that down at Busch Stadium. The Mets were conveniently here in town in St. Louis prior to us needing to wrap up the episode. And also nervous there, though, because Juan was a little late to arrive.
A little. I mean, he was an hour late,
Or pushing 2 hours.
Guesses, guys?
What
time do we think Juan's going to get here?
We're placing bets.
What is it? 3:15 right now. 3:17.
Well, okay, I would love that. So you're competing against the weather, and you're competing against the music for batting practice. When is it going to start to pour? When is the music going to start to blare?
And then I had a Zoom with a potential upcoming guest at
big
5
guest.
That would be huge for us. And we're like, oh my God, are we going to have to cancel possibly Juan Soto?
Right. Right. And it all worked out, but I was very nervous for that hour where we didn't know when the interview with Juan was going to start because, you can only control what you can control, but from 2:30, the time he was supposed to do the interview, it would have been perfect. And so when you see that and you understand that, and then think to yourself, oh, okay, now that he's running late, if he shows up at 3 or 3:15 or 3:30, whatever it is, and then 2 seconds later, BP starts and the music just goes off.
Yeah.
You can't help but think, oh, this could have been so much better. I only would have thought that. So thank goodness the skies held, the music held off, and we were able to get the interview with minimal background noise.
Right.
And our final interview of the 15th year of the show. Another one in the books. Any final thoughts?
No. I was just going to say how, inspirational, not inspirational, but, a lot of people respect Scott. I can see that, when we went through the Angel Stadium. and just seeing all the players going up to him like, oh, your resources and all the stuff that you do has really helped us and stuff like that. And so I don't know, I was just shocked by like the amount of respect this guy has.
I did love the player too that found out he made the opening day roster too. That was a cool moment for us to capture.
They let me know today I made the opening day roster. So. Yep. Right before BP.
That's great, Kyron. That is awesome.
And you see Scott's excitement for his guys. But once again, that's that passion that he pours into it day in, day out.
And for somebody who has been on the receiving end of a lot of criticism over the years, it seems like he has done a lot of good for players in general, not just his clients, in terms of the game. And from our interactions with him, he seemed to be a really good man.
Yeah, and it shows that he really cares. I mean, I can just tell by just how he interacts with all these players and stuff. Like, he really does care.
Lives and breathes the game, that is for sure. For Carlos and Brad, I am Graham. We'll see you next time.